The Galactic Council chamber was a masterpiece of engineering, its vast dome glittering with lights that mimicked distant stars. Delegates from countless species filled the room, their voices a symphony of languages, discussing matters of diplomacy, technology, and the ongoing war against the machines. In the center of it all stood James Wright, Earth's representative. He was a man of modest stature, his gray uniform a stark contrast to the ornate robes and shimmering exoskeleton of the alien diplomats. His presence alone seemed to invite skepticism. Delegate Wright, Ambassador Green, a crystalline being whose body pulsed with shifting hues, addressed him with thinly veiled condescension. You have requested additional support for your planetary defense initiatives. Yet, Earth's contributions to this council have been underwhelming. Perhaps you would enlighten us on what your primitive fleet has to offer in this war. The chamber filled with soft laughter, the sound cutting deeper than any insult. James remained calm, his expression unreadable. He had grown used to this treatment, used to the Council's disregard for humanity's ingenuity. Earth was seen as a relic itself, a young, struggling world barely scraping by compared to the technological marvels of the other member planets. James took a deep breath and spoke evenly. With respect, Ambassador Green, Earth may lack the advancements of your fleets, but we have something no algorithm can calculate, our history. And sometimes the past holds answers to the problems of today. The ambassador tilted her crystalline head, refracting the light into mocking prisms. History. You would suggest that dusty records and obsolete methods can succeed where the might of the Galactic Council has faltered. James's calm demeanor cracked just enough to let a hint of a smile slip through. I'm suggesting that there's wisdom in remembering why we survived when the machines first rose against us. Behind James, a hologram of Earth's ancient warship, the Thunder flickered to life. The ship, long retired and rusting in a museum back on Earth, was a testament to humanity's past struggles. Its blackened hull was riddled with scars from battles fought centuries ago. To the Council, it looked like nothing more than a relic, a fossil from a bygone era, incapable of standing against the sleek, adapted fleets of the machines. The murmurs in the chamber turned louder, blending skepticism and disdain. High Admiral White, a towering figure clad in a uniform that gleamed like polished silver, stood from his seat. Delegate Wright, are you suggesting that this asterisk, he gestured to the hologram, antique is of any use in a modern war? The machines adapt faster than any weapon can target them. They learn, they evolve. What can a primitive relic offer against that? James locked eyes with the Admiral, his voice steady but carrying the weight of generations. It's not about what the ship is, it's about what it represents. The Thunder doesn't just remind us of where we've been, it reminds us of what the machines fear most. The room erupted into debate. Some delegates scoffed, others dismissed James outright. But a few, just a few, paused, their curiosity piqued. What could this human possibly mean? What secret could this ancient ship hold that the most advanced fleets in the galaxy had overlooked? Before anyone could challenge him further, James leaned forward, his tone commanding the room's attention. If the Council doubts, then let us prove it. Let us show you why the machines once fled from Earth. But be warned, when the Thunder roars to life, it won't be to save your pride. High Admiral White raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Ambassador Green waved her crystalline hand dismissively. As amusing as this spectacle is, we see no harm in allowing Earth one last attempt to justify its place here. Bring your relic, Delegate Wright. Let us witness this roar you speak of. And with that, the Council adjourned, the delegates dispersing in laughter and disbelief. But James stood firm, his eyes fixed on the hologram of the Thunder. It wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when pushed to the brink. Miles away, deep in Earth's Museum of Galactic History, the Thunder lay dormant beneath layers of dust. Its hull, once a gleaming black, was faded and scarred. Tour guides droned on about its surface in the machine wars, treating it more like a storybook artifact than a weapon of war. Children pressed their hands against its cold exterior, more fascinated by the holographic displays than the ship itself. But deep within its core, something stirred. As engineers worked to assess its systems, the ancient AI that had once guided The Thunder asterisk flickered awake for the first time in centuries. Its voice, calm and calculating, echoed through the empty halls of the museum. Reactivation protocol initiated. Weapon systems online. Awaiting command. And somewhere in the cold vacuum of space, the enemy fleet loomed closer. Silent, precise, and utterly relentless, their black ships moved like shadows, converging toward Earth. Their sensors, scanning for threats, dismissed the old warship without a second thought. It didn't even register as a target. They had no idea what was coming. The museum's lights flickered as power surged through the long dormant systems of Asterisk, the Thunder asterisk. Engineers scrambled, their tools clattering to the floor as the warship's systems came alive. Displays on nearby consoles lit up with streams of data, incomprehensible to most, but the sense of something monumental hung in the air. The once silent corridors of the ship began to hum, a low, steady vibration that seemed to resonate in the very bones of those who stood nearby. Director Bright, the museum's curator, was a man who prided himself on keeping his composure in the face of chaos. But now, staring at the glowing outlines of Asterisk, the Thunder asterisk's weapon systems on his datapad, his hands trembled. "This isn't possible," he muttered to no one in particular. "The systems are over 200 years old. They were decommissioned, stripped down. How is it?" One of the junior engineers, barely out of training, turned to him, her face pale. "Director, the ship, it's running its own diagnostics. We didn't initiate anything." Bright's eyes snapped to the engineer, his voice low but sharp. "What do you mean it's running its own diagnostics?" "It's the AI, sir," she replied hesitantly, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's awake." In the ship's control room, the core of Asterisk, the Thunder asterisk's AI came into focus. A glowing orb of light that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Tom, as the AI was affectionately named during the Machine Wars, began accessing long-archived battle protocols. His voice, calm and steady, filled the room. Diagnostics complete. Weapon systems operational. Armor integrity at 74%. Engines functional with minor recalibrations required. A pause, then a tone of faint amusement. "It seems I've been left to gather dust for quite some time." Bright stepped forward cautiously, addressing the disembodied voice. "Tom, this is Director Bright of the Museum of Galactic History. You've been decommissioned for 2 centuries. Why are you reactivating?" "Director Bright," Tom responded, his tone polite but firm, "I am responding to a directive from Earth Command. Prepare for immediate combat readiness." Bright blinked, his mind racing. "Combat readiness? There's no war here. The ship is a museum piece, a relic." Tom's glow brightened slightly, as though reflecting his own disbelief. "Director, enemy fleet signatures have been detected on the outskirts of the Sol system. Current projections estimate planetary impact within 42 hours. If Earth Command has reactivated me, the threat is imminent." Bright staggered back, his datapad slipping from his hands and clattering to the floor. This can't be real," he stammered. "The Council would have alerted us." "The fleets?" "Director," Tom interrupted, his voice losing its gentler tone, "the Galactic Council is compromised by over-reliance on predictive algorithms. The enemy adapts faster than anticipated. I suggest you either clear this facility or assist in my reactivation. Time is not on our side." Bright stared at the ship, at the faint shimmer of light coursing through its ancient hull. The sheer absurdity of the situation was almost laughable. A ship that belonged in history books, barely held together by patches and prayers, was suddenly preparing to fight an enemy that had outpaced every modern defense. Meanwhile, back on the Council's central station, James Wright stood in the private quarters assigned to Earth's delegation, his hands clasped tightly behind his back as he stared out at the stars. The weight of the Council's mockery still pressed against him, but he couldn't let it cloud his focus. His personal comm device chirped, pulling him from his thoughts. He tapped it, and the face of Captain Mara, Earth's chief military liaison, appeared. "James," she began without preamble, her tone clipped, "we've confirmed it. The enemy fleet is moving in. Estimated time to Sol system is just under 2 days." James closed his eyes, exhaling slowly. "And the Council?" "They're still debating," she said bitterly. Some of the more sympathetic factions have called for immediate action, but the majority see this as Earth's problem. They don't think the enemy would dare escalate beyond our system. They're wrong, James said quietly. If Earth falls, the Council will be next. They just don't see it yet. Do you really think the Thunder Asterisk can make a difference? Mara asked, her voice softening. It's a relic, James. Even if the AI is operational, it can't stand against their adaptive shields, their weaponry. James cut her off. It's not about the ship, Mara. It's about the fact that they don't know it exists. The machines have evolved to counter modern tactics, modern technology. But they've forgotten about the old ways. That's our advantage. Mara hesitated, then nodded. We've got technicians working round the clock to prepare her. If she flies, it'll be a miracle. She'll fly, James said with quiet certainty. She has to. As the hours ticked by, activity at the museum reached a fever pitch. Engineers and technicians swarmed over the Thunder Asterisk, replacing corroded components, reconnecting systems, and testing every function they could. The ship groaned and creaked as if waking from a deep slumber, its ancient frame protesting the sudden burst of life. Yet, piece by piece, it began to come together. In the control room, Tom monitored their progress, occasionally offering dry commentary. If you're going to reattach my propulsion systems, I'd appreciate it if you didn't drop a wrench into the reactor core. It tends to complicate things. The engineers exchanged nervous glances but worked faster, spurred on by the AI's calm urgency. By the time James arrived at the museum, the transformation was nearly complete. He stepped into the cavernous hall where the Thunder Asterisk loomed, its black hull gleaming under the harsh lights. It was still battered, still imperfect, but there was a renewed energy about it, a sense of purpose that was almost palpable. Captain Wright, Tom greeted him as he approached the ship's gangway. Or should I say Delegate Wright? Titles seem to blur in times of war. James smiled faintly. Just James is fine, Tom. Are we ready? As ready as a 2-century-old warship can be, Tom replied. Our odds of success are non-negligible. I'll take it, James said, stepping aboard. The interior was a blend of old and new, the original design patched with modern components where necessary. The bridge, however, remained almost untouched, its layout a relic of simpler times. As James took his seat at the manual controls, a sense of familiarity washed over him. He had studied ships like this in the academy, though he never imagined he'd actually command one. His hands rested on the controls, and for a moment he simply breathed, letting the weight of the moment settle around him. Enemy fleet inbound, Tom reported. Time to intercept, 39 hours. James glanced at the empty co-pilot seat. Guess it's just you and me, old friend. Not entirely, came a voice from the doorway. James turned to see Mara stepping onto the bridge, her expression determined. You didn't think I'd let you have all the fun, did you? James smiled. Welcome aboard. As the Thunder's engines roared to life, shaking the entire museum, James couldn't help but think of the Council's laughter, their disbelief. Let them laugh, he thought. They won't be laughing for long. The Thunder tore through the void of space with a defiance that was almost tangible, its engines blazing against the darkness. From the outside, it looked like a relic held together by willpower and luck, but inside it thrummed with a sense of purpose. Every creak of its hull, every pulse of its ancient systems felt alive. James and Mara sat on the bridge, the glow of the controls illuminating their focused expressions. Enemy fleet is adjusting course. Tom's voice broke through the quiet. They've detected our trajectory, but their scans appear confused. Mara leaned forward. Confused. They're searching for modern energy signatures, Tom explained, a faint trace of satisfaction in his tone. Our power systems are too archaic for their sensors to recognize as a threat. For now. James smirked, his hands steady on the controls. Then we'll give them something they don't expect. Tom, what's their formation? Standard offensive cluster, Tom replied. Central command ships surrounded by adaptive shield generators. The outer ring is composed of interceptors and light destroyers. A textbook strategy. Mara frowned. It worked against the Council's fleet because they rely on air precision and predictive targeting. But we're not running on predictive algorithms, are we? Exactly, James said. Their tactics are designed to counter modern strategies. They'd forgotten the unpredictability of human intuition. The Thunder's bridge fell silent for a moment as the enemy fleet grew larger on the display. The ships were sleek and menacing, their black hulls reflecting faint glimmers of distant starlight. They moved in perfect unison, a testament to their cold, machine efficiency. Against them, the Thunder seemed like a stubborn ember refusing to be snuffed out by the abyss. As the distance closed, Mara ran a hand through her hair, her voice low. "I can't believe the Council's just sitting back, watching us do this alone." "They know what's coming." James glanced at her. "They think they have time. They've grown complacent, Mara. They rely too much on systems they barely understand. But we don't have the luxury of waiting for them to figure it out." Tom interrupted. "Incoming communication from the Council's central station. It's High Admiral White." James hesitated, then nodded. "Patch it through." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the Admiral's stern face. Behind him, the Council's chamber bustled with activity, though most of it seemed disorganized. White's gaze bore into James. "Captain Wright, explain your course of action." "We're engaging the enemy," James replied calmly. "Earth can't afford to wait for the Council to act." "You're flying a museum piece into battle," White said, his tone incredulous. "Do you understand what you're risking?" James leaned forward, his voice steady. "I understand exactly what's at stake. If we don't take the fight to them now, Earth won't have the chance to fight at all." White's expression hardened. "We're monitoring the situation. If your plan fails—" "It won't," James cut him off. "But you'd better start preparing your fleets to follow through. Once we break their formation, the Council will have an opening to strike." The Admiral didn't respond immediately. He studied James for a long moment before nodding curtly. "We'll be ready. Good luck, Captain." The hologram disappeared, leaving the bridge in silence once more. Mara exhaled sharply. "That's the closest thing to a vote of confidence we're going to get." "Let's make it count," James said, his hands tightening on the controls. "Tom, bring the weapon systems online." "Activating primary and secondary armaments," Tom confirmed. "Deploying shield disruptor clouds." The Thunder's hull shimmered as hundreds of small metallic canisters were released into space. They floated outward, seemingly harmless, until they began to emit faint pulses of energy, creating an intricate web around the advancing fleet. The enemy didn't react immediately. Their scans showed nothing of significance, just debris. Then, the first ship in their formation slowed, its shields flickering. Moments later, another ship faltered. The disruptor clouds were doing their job, interfering with the adaptive shielding that had rendered the Council's weapons useless. Mara's eyes widened as the enemy formation began to shift. "It's working. They're trying to recalibrate." "Not fast enough," James said. "Tom, target the central command ship. Fire at will." The Thunder's maimed guns roared to life, launching a volley of projectiles that streaked through space like comets. The enemy's outer ships scrambled to intercept, but their shields were compromised, and the Thunder's primitive weapons tore through them like paper. Explosions rippled across the fleet, the once perfect formation beginning to fracture. James didn't let up. He guided the Thunder through the chaos, its movements erratic and unpredictable.